Good morning, Rabbi Yosef. LeAliyat Nishmat Chaim Elefant. Rabbi Yosef, this Siyum Nazir, Beis Hashem, is going to be in Chicago, and I'm extremely excited about it. Woo! And so if you watch the Shiur, you're part of the Chicago Chevra, you watch the Shiur and you don't come out to the live Shiur, please, I beg of you, come to the Siyum. It's going to be a phenomenal Siyum. Over 7 people already booked tickets from New York. I'm not joking. Officials flying in. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a Motsei. It's going to be a Motsei from Baltimore. No, seriously. So this, not this Thursday, next Thursday, 2 weeks from now, but kids, it's 2 weeks, March 30th. Be there. Before we start Masechtas Nazir, you were pumping a status campaign, showing how many people. A lot of people don't even know. You probably don't even know what status is still. Me either. So well. We're going to have to do a little shiur for us guys, our age group. But listen to here, you put it together. Shapsi Cohen, 540 daf since Rosh Hashanah, put together what some of the statuses look like. If you look on the top, it says who put the status on. And if you have WhatsApp, it's like a little bit of a short clip that people see. Show how many people join the share. In our MDY Clips WhatsApp group, they have a special WhatsApp group for clips with over 400 members. Already deep into pushing next, Masechta sharing short clips from the share and posters encouraging newcomers to join. And closes a screenshot of some statuses posted yesterday. Look out for the ones that have added a personal message. Shapsi Cohen, here you go. Rabbi Yosef, in just a few days, the Masechta that has all the ingredients. This is from Mo Landy. It's super short. It's Mo's Landy status. It's super geschmack.
Not about the daf, it's about the Yomi.
Our Chיים,
and
David.
It's something that you should never forget.
This is from Motsei Weinreb. Motsei. Another one, you stroll corn. Zev Shufer. Yisrael Kormlud. Shimi Liefman. Mark. Shulim Berkowitz. Shulim. Even Hasidim have statuses sometimes. Ping me a message. Shas is never boring, and there's always a curve that the Gemara sends us. All right, so put it on your status, get more people to join site. That's going to be amazing. And here is the ad in London, I guess in Manchester also, one of the most geschmack mesechtes, it says here. And Rabbi Schoenberg himself is a featured person on this ad. You see that? Gevaldik. Okay. I like this guy a lot. It says, Hashem loves Toyemenu. It's a Toyem menu. Listen to this guy. He's Gevaldik.
I want to say Nochazach that if you have an MDY guy, one of Eli Stefansky's Hasidim, and they get you to join the daf, that's almost the simcha of Lubavitcher, getting a guy to put on tefillin who never put on tefillin for the first time. A karkafta, a gavra. He becomes your Daf Yomi homie.
Nachamo, is a word again.
I want to say Nochazach that if you have an MDY guy, one of Eli Stefansky's Hasidim, and they get you to join the daf, that's almost the simcha of Lubavitcher, getting a guy to put on tefillin who never put on tefillin for the first time. A karkafta, a gavra. He becomes your Daf Yomi homie.
It's your song. She's singing your song. Here, hold on. This little kid is trying to sing Nachman Seltzer's solo. Not nice. We're gonna have to edit that out. Oy vey. What does it say here? Hi, Avi Mark Duke in Bournemouth, England. Here, I just can't read now. I'm just loving this challenge. Never dreamed I'll be doing Chazor on Arvei Pesachim. Things I'm excited about. Coping with a 1.75 YouTube speed. managing kahut, the difference in levels in Pesachim versus Nazir makes it so much easier. Such a brilliant initiative. Huge yishkoyach all around. Have a great day. L'chag kosher v'sameach in advance. Mark. Now that Avi's here, I want to say something very, very important. A lot of times I go to, when we go to Siyumim around the world, so a lot of people come over and they say, I'm so jealous of your schusim. You have so many schusim. You might tell you so many schusim. And I'm thinking to myself, I think each and every one of us is capable of producing more schusim. You just have to put your mind to it. Say, what am I going to do? Avi came up with an initiative on his own, thought about it. MDY kids. Imagine schusim getting 80 kids a night to learn a Daf Gemara. That's 80 Daf Gemara. He wasn't happy there. A week later, he comes up with another thing. Let's get 620 people to learn a Daf a day, extra Daf a day. So he thought it was like a little thing after MDY kids. It turns out it's much larger than MDY kids in a way. Maybe MDY kids will be there. But it's an individual that comes up with an idea, could produce chusim ad ein soif. Everybody's capable. Everybody. Nachman will tell you, I sat with him 9.5 years ago in a mall, and I said, I'm jealous of Rav Hafstetter. I also want to do something like Rav Hafstetter. So you put your mind to it and you do it.
I told Rav Hafstetter that.
You did?
Yeah.
It's a Maaser Shaya. I am.
Because of him, you made this thing.
I saw that an individual balabas, if he puts his mind to it, could do it. Anybody. Nobody has a more talent than the other. Okay. Huh? 632 people joined Arvei Pesachim. It's not even too late. You can still join today. Talking about the Arvei Pesachim initiative. I thought this was fascinating to me. I was thinking about this individual that won this morning, and then I got this. Here we go. Oops, I gave it away. Tzlafchad. And we were wondering who only has daughters like Tzlafchad. And it turns out it is Jonathan Austin himself. I was be'emes. This morning I was like, where is he? Usually he used to message me and this, and he used to come around once in a while. Did he drop off from the shiur? No. He's doing the Arvei Pesachim initiative. So, Dovid Steinhardt, who sits right over here, he's now in Florida, and he sent me this. He was in Boca Raton, and he came upon this door. That's what he says. He said he doesn't know who lives there or what. He sees these two magnets on the door. Also, when davening in Boca Raton synagogue yesterday, Rabbi Brody made an appeal between Mincha and Ma'ariv. Rabbi Brody, I guess, from behind the bima, for people to join the Arvei Pesachim challenge with Rebelli. So Yishkoyach Rabbi Brody. How's it going by you? Wasn't he supposed to do something in Chicago? Now check this out. This guy he's I don't want to say the word TikTok, because nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. But check this out. Ephraim's Barbershop in the Five Towns. Look in the background.
Good morning, Rabbi Sai.
He did it with me.
Good morning, Rabbi Sai.
Okay. We got to start learning.
God bless Rabbi Eli Stefansky.
Hi from Geneva, Switzerland. We all have Shiur and we listen to them every day. Thanks so much. Moshe Gabay. Now, the koilel is sponsored for Anon Ymous from Lakewood. The koilel is sponsored by Reuven Klein in honor of my daughter Lisa becoming a Dovid Tzvi Chaim from Toronto. The Masech is sponsored by Maaser. The Masech is sponsored by LeAliyat Nishmat Chaim Elefant Yoseph by Anon Ymous. Parnas HaChodesh, LeAliyat Nishmat Yehuda, Holocaust survivor. Parnas HaChodesh, Anon Ymous from Flatbush for continued bracha, tzlacha, mazel, and clarity. Parnas HaChodesh, Landy Family, LeAliyat Nishmat Chaim Yeshעי. Parnas HaChodesh, LeAliyat Nishmat Chaim Elefant. Chaim ben Ya'akov Shmuel, zechariah Brachah by his Westside friends. LeAliyat Nishmat Zechariah ben Moshe. Parnas HaYom, Ed and Sandy Klar, and family on the first yortzeit of Ed's father, David Klar. Dovid Tzvi ben Yoseph Yehuda and Shlomo should have an aliyah. By Mendel Steigman, 6 yortzeit of Dovid Avrohom ben Shlomo Stigman Passed in Italy on a kashrus trip. He was in a factory over there and he was nifter. And Mendel is a big part of the daf. The Kaufman grandkids that do the daf with the Rebelli daily. LeAliyat Nishmat Yeshעי ben Moshe Chil Michal Zeda and Tzvi Hirsch ben Eliezer Hillel. And the art of the month for complete reform for Chaim Tzvi ben Lev. Did anybody contact you about the art? The Olam is schluffing. The Olam doesn't appreciate the art, maybe. Rabbi said, I wanted, this is not part of today's sugya, but I asked Yoshi to redo this because I felt that the Olam didn't really understand it 100%, and I thought it was very negea to pshat. The Gemara said yesterday, 2 or 3 bones. So Tosfos explains, 2 or 3 bones means the red on the left and the red on the right. In other words, if you use the femur and the tibula and the other one next to the tibula, that equals 3 bones, but we call it 2 bones. Why do we call it 2 bones? Because it's 2 parts of the foot, the upper part and the bottom part. So it's called 2, but it really consists of 3 bones, and that's roiv minyan. But if you use the 2 femurs and 1 tibula or whatever, that the Gemara calls 3 bones because it's 3 parts of 3. It's 2 upper legs and 1 lower leg, so they call it 3. But if you look, what I want to point out here that wasn't clear yesterday, the one on the left is considered roiv binyan. All you need is an upper and a lower. I misrepresented it. All you need is 1 upper, 1 lower. If it contains 2 bones on the lower, it's already roiv. 1 leg is considered roiv if it has all 3 bones in it. But if you're going to use the 2 uppers, then you need 1 of the lowers. Chap, 2 and 3. Yes, the colors were off. I just grabbed something from online and I asked Yoshi to paint it red. Now I think it's a lot clearer. Yes? Okay. Fine. But no, the Nakuda is, and I kept on showing that skeleton with 3 red legs. It's wrong. All you need is 1, 2. 1 upper, 1 lower. And that's enough for roiv binyan. Says Gemara, Barcha. We're holding 8 lines from the bottom of Nun Beis Amud Beis. Roiva atzomois min shidro v'gulgoyles mai. So, in the Mishnah, it says that you need a chatzi kav, let's call this a chatzi kav, of bones. What happens if you take a very important bone called the skull or the spine? Perhaps you get away and make the Nazir shave his head even with half of that amount. You don't need a chatzi kav. Maybe even a roiva, even a quarter of a kav. Kikotani chatzi kav atzamo yisechidik mishari vara. Aval min shidro v'gogoyles. The chamiri, perhaps the spine, if it's all by itself, if we go on that side, that the spine by itself is considered something that's metama. The skull by itself is something. So you see that the Gemara, the Torah, gave the skull very special properties. It doesn't have to be a chatzi kav, maybe even a quarter of a kav, since it's such an important part of the body of the skeleton. Maybe the Gemara calls it chamiri. On its own, just the skull. What other bone in the body on its own has that? We just showed. You have to have roiv binyan, you have to have a lot. The femur and the tibula, you have to have this. You have to have 125. Who? Tibia. Oh, tibia. Shkoyach. Where were you in the beginning of Shiur? The tibia. Really? Isn't there an L in there? It's silent? Oh, there's no L? Oh, that's what it is. Fibula. That's why I didn't make it to medical school. I tried. They gave me a math test and that would be like the worst. Mix up those medicines, memory, like. Okay. So. No. All bones, regardless of the type of bone, you need a certain amount, which is called a chatzi kav. Chatzi kav, according to the Chazon Ish, is a half a liter. Omer Rav Toshma. Hashidra v'agulgoylos. It says in the Mishnah, what? He says a kav is 2 liters. No. Yeah, but then I remember I folded it over. It wasn't good. I had to fold it. No, the half a bottle is a liter. So that was a chatzi kav, right? And a roiva is half of that, which is a half a liter. A liter is a chatzi kav, Right. And a roiva is half a liter. Hashidra v'agol goylas. Now, Rav understands this picture right over here. That if the Mishnah says, when the Mishnah talks about a shidra, a spine, or a skull, one or the other, it has to be at least a chatzi kav. It's obvious it's a half a kav. That's what Rav understands in the beginning. So since it says in the Mishnah, Hashidra v'algogoylas, v'isokadaitoch, roivat somois, dasim shidra v'algogoylas chamir. Says Rav, wait a minute. The Mishnah says that you have a full skull. How much does a full skull equal? Let's call it at least a half a kav. So if you're telling me that a quarter of a kav, half that amount, is metama, dasim yishir v'glois chamer, listening al roivat somis abom en hashidra. So shouldn't it say this? It should say in the Mishnah a quarter of a kav of broken up bones from a skull equals tumah. How does it mention it? If you are right that even a half of amount, because Rav understood that a skull is a certain amount, equals a half a kav. So if you're telling me, you're asking me, what about a quarter of a kav? A half a liter? So what do you mean? If a half a liter is matama, so why isn't it mentioned in the Mishnah? The Mishnah mentions a full liter, a chatzi kav. Tell me a much bigger chiddush, a quarter of a kav. Why is it mentioned in the Mishnah? What's the answer to that? Top of Nun Gimel, that a skull doesn't equal a half a kav. You're assuming that a skull equals a half a kav, and you asked me a question, you made an assumption, and based on your assumption, you asked me a question. Rava says that we're talking about where the spine and the skull don't have a roiva. In other words, it's not true, your assumption. You could have a skull that's less than a roiva. And that's why it's not mentioned in the Mishnah. Why would the Mishnah say, and a quarter of a kav? It already says in the Mishnah, a skull, and a skull is less than a quarter of a kav. You thought that a skull is a half a kav. I'm telling you, Rav himself says that a skull could even be less than a quarter of a kav. She'ein ben roivat somis. Says the Gemara, Basar the Shama Meribah Kiva. The art scroll over here says this is one of the hardest sugis in Shas. This line over here, and this whole thing. What do you mean? Rava heard it from Rebbe Kiva. Rava lived hundreds of years after Rebbe Kiva. When did he hear it exactly? He knew everything Rebbe Kiva said when he was 5 years old, 10 years old. One day somebody told him, Rebbe Kiva said this and that. And where exactly is this Rebbe Kiva? So you have here a whole thing in the Rishonim. Maybe it's Mar Ukva. You have to be goyers. Taisa says, if I wasn't scared of all the G'daylim, I would just say it's not Rebbe Kiva. We have to stick in a word called Mar Ukva. He makes something up, Kilo, like to fix what's going on here. Okay. But they have different pshatim and taisvis that maybe it is based on a certain Mishnah in Oyalos, but the Rosh says, based on that Mishnah, we could just go to a Mishnah right before it. It's a little bit of a mess. It's Nazir. But that's the bottom line here. There is no bottom line yet. We're trying to figure out if a quarter, just the Saber Soiz, and this is not going to help much, but this I got from, it's a little dirty because I had to pour the cookies out for this, and I didn't have time to clean it. But this sits on my counter. This is from the Siyum in London. Dov Harris gave this to me. They're etched, MDY, etched into the glass. This is a Chatzi Kav. This is a Roiva Kav. We want to know if somebody fills one of these up with skulls, little piece of skull, and a Nazir walks into the room, does it become Tameh? So in the beginning, Rava thought that since it says skull in the Mishnah, skull has to be, most skulls are this size. By the way, somebody came over to me yesterday, he's sitting here in the room. He said, I have a real skull in my house. I'm a dentist, trained dentist. I have a skull. You want me to bring it? I'm like, wait, a skull is matama. According to we paskin, we have to be machmer. We weren't sure yesterday. Is it a skull and a shidra, just a skull? We have koyanim in the room here. You can't just bring a skull. Besides, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you got it from India. And the real skull, you got it from India, it's a guy. But it's matama. You got to bury that thing. So whoever you are out there, just bury it. But don't bury it like where they're going to be building buildings, because then the Chaver Kiddush is going to have a field. They look, we found the skull. Give us $2 million and then we'll let you build it. What? Yeah. Goyim or matama. Oh, naboil maybe. It's not so pasha. Not so pasha that naboil. Yeah. Shlomo Paskins. Oh, you're going to hear from Rabbi Schoenberg about oil and flying over cemeteries next week. But maybe Ayin Sham maybe talks about goyim and goyish cemeteries. But not so pasha that oil not. And you say the Shlomo Paskins oil. I think we're machmir. No, midrabanon. Yeah, we're machmir.
So this guy who has the skull is always tummy, like his whole life.
Right. I don't think whoever you are, I don't want to. You might not want me to say. It could be if you want me to say, you could scream out your name. It might not be a good idea to have tumah in your house. I don't know. I mean, he did it back then. My father-in-law told me, and this is creepy stuff. When he went to medical school, I don't know how it is today. You just order a human head could come in the mail. That's how they ship it. Like, so if you by mistake open somebody's mail, like you wanna steal, one of those porch pirates, they go, ah! Anyway, fine. Find human body parts in there. Hashem Yirachim. Anyway, I think it's normal practice today. No, from the morgue. If you go on Amazon, I want 2 legs and a pinky, and they send it to you. Yeah. Toshma, I don't know if it's still like they'll call me up to say that's not how it goes. You probably have to go to special. I don't know. Toshma, Shami Yoimer, Etzem Echod Min Hashidroi Min Hagogolos. I think I was in the middle of the explaining that Rav understood that this is the size in the Mishnah, and Memela Rav asked if this is the size in the Mishnah. Let's say a bigger chiddush. The smaller size is also tamei. Says Rav, no, this is not the size in the Mishnah. This is the size of the Mishnah, even less than this in the Mishnah. And why did he? What happened was that he said his raya beforehand, but later on he found out from Rebbe Kiva that this is the size of the Mishnah. Okay, the smaller size. Toshma, Shami Yoimer, Etzem Echol Min Shidra. I don't know if you said the article says this is the hardest thing. He's going on the whole sugya. I don't know. One of the stumim. In other words, there's a lot of difficulties here. Baruch Hashem, I just went weiter without knowing. It's easy. It's not a problem. Shami Yoimer, Etzem Echol Min Shidra, Oimin Gugoylas. So, take a look at this. Yoshi did this for me. Beautiful stuff. One part of the skull on the left, one vertebrae on the right, either one, says Shammai, if a Nazir is in a room with one of those parts, end the story. Okay? It's matama. Now, Chachamim will argue, and they say, Shammai, you're wrong. His own Talmidim argue, yeah? What do they say? Check this out. Do they say option 1? You say one part of the spine, we say an entire spine. Or no, they're option 2. They say, you say one part of a spine, we say an entire spine plus an entire skull. Now what does logic dictate? Logic dictates that it's option 1. Why would they be so far off in argument? Oh. So, Chachamim will argue on Shammai. They say, Etzem Echad Min Shidra, Oy Mingel Gailas. They're saying, so the Gemara understands from here that since they are machmir, so you could infer from that that a roiva is metama. That even a roiva, the super says the Gemara, Shani Shammai de machmir tfei. You can't infer anything here. Shammai says on the other extreme, he's saying, right? The Gemara understood that if it's Shammai saying one piece, and they're saying option 1, so option 1 is not that much compared to a lot of other bones. So option one would be like even a small amount of a roiva. And this kind of answers our question. Is a roiva matam and nazir? Yes. If you would say it's option two, that's a lot more, and it's more than a roiva. It includes a skull, it includes more bones. Says Gemara, no. Don't prove anything. Shammai is super machmer. And yes, the difference between Chacham and Shammai is extreme. He says one piece, and they say a crazy amount. They say a whole spine and a whole skull. So again, I have no raya. What would be the halacha with a small amount of a roiva? Maybe fakert. Now, so let's go the other extreme. Maybe Chachamim hold that this is not enough to be Metam and Nazir. You need a full chatzikav. Why? Because Chachamim are the ones who say l'chayra, the option two. Why do Chachamim say option two? Because Chachamim hold you need a lot of bones. It's not enough to have one skull. It's not enough to have one spine. You need a chatzikav. So you ask me, is a roiva kav Metam and Nazir? The answer is no. Look, Chacham, we passing like Chacham, not like Shammai. And Chacham hold you need a whole bunch of stuff. Now, just to confuse the Olam a little bit, Chacham never, and we spoke about it yesterday, Chacham never say the words oy. It's Shammai who uses the word oy. When he talks about, where is it? Let me just go here, it's easier for me to find it. Shammai says, oy the right, oy the left. Either it's from the skull or from the spine. He says the word oy. So there's no confusing what Shammai said here. He never. There's no way he intended both of them. Remember yesterday we had a shaila. Does the Mishnah, when the Mishnah says a skull and a spine, does it mean both of them together? It's one or the other. Shammai, there's no question in Shammai because it doesn't say v with a vav. It says oy. It's either or. It's one. Just one of the two. So, as we explained yesterday, when you say the word oy, he meant one or the other. Chacham never used the word oy. Chacham say, the shedra vigil goylas. Memela, it's mashma, they mean both. Right? If you just look at the words, the simple reading, Shammai says, oy, he meant one or the other, one piece of the spine or one piece of the skull. Chacham, who don't say the word oy, simple reading comprehension, means both. And therefore, I would say you probably need a half a kav. You probably need the larger amount, because both. How do you contain a spine and a skull? It's a lot of bone. Says the Gemara, time of the Shammai the Machmir, hold Rabbona Dike Chatzi Kavat Somos. So no. Dilman can loy pligi Rabbona and lay the Shammai Elebetzim. Echad. We have no force. We don't know what Chacham are saying. It's very possible the Chachamim hold option one. Who told you Chacham are arguing in option two? Let's go back. Maybe Shammai says one piece of a spine and Chacham say the entire spine. And if they say just one entire spine, maybe that is a roivakov. Maybe it does fit into this smaller box. Okay. So then we have to say the svar that we said yesterday. So how come Chacham never said the word oy? If you don't say oy or l'charis mashma, both. How are you explaining that ve means one? The answer is because Shammai was forced to say oy because he's such an extreme position. He's saying one piece. So if he wasn't clear and he didn't say the word oy, I would confuse it. I would think a piece of a spine, a piece of a skull. So he said, no, I don't want anybody in any generation to ever get confused. I'm going to be very, very, very specific. Chachamim, who didn't say an extreme shita, they could be easier on their words. They didn't have to say the word oy. Okay, that was yesterday's thing. That's how you explain it now. Omer B'Lezer. Skenim Rishayim, Miksasim Oimrim. So let's go back to the Mishnah. What does our Mishnah say? A very interesting halacha that a Nazir, in order for him to become Tameh, he needs a half a kav. He needs a full giant box of bones in order to become Tameh. Now listen to this. We have two sheets that don't really fit our Mishnah. Skenim Rishonim, in the beginning, the Rishonim said, Miksasin Oyoim, Chatzi Kavat Somis, Chatzi Loy Dam Lakol. There's one shear for everything in the world. For a Nazir, for a Tameh, for everything. Our Mishnah says specifically, it's only, this shear of Chatzi Kav is only for a Nazir. Nothing else is mentioned in our Mishnah. In other words, all other Tumas are a quarter of a Kav. And Roiva Tzom is Revi's Dam, Loila Kol. There is no shear of a Roiva, says this first Shita. That does not fit into our Mishnah. Some would say, Af Roiva Tzom is Revi's Dam Lakol. There's only one shear for all the Torah, and that is a Roiva, a quarter. That certainly doesn't fit into our Mishnah, because our Mishnah says that a Nazir gets a half, not a Roiva. What is going on here with our Mishnah? Bezdin shlach reim amru, come the third shita. Chatzi kav atzom is chatzi lug dam lakol. Yes, the entire Torah is a half a kav. Roiva atzom is revi's dam litruma v'kachim. If a person happened to be in a house that had the half amount, the reva, and he wants to eat truma and kachim, he cannot. He's a kohen who wants to eat truma. No, we're going to be machmer on him. Avol. Nazir Pesach. So over here, that's like our shita. That this small shear of roiva doesn't apply to Nazir, and very interestingly, it doesn't apply to somebody that's bringing a carbon Pesach. All kachim he cannot bring. He can't bring a chatas oil shlamim, not tamid, whatever taida. But a carbon Pesach he could. The Rambam says it means only on the last day, but that's not what it says here. The Rambam's shita is. It's very specific to on his final day of Tahara. Okay. But let's focus on Nazir. That's what our Mishnah says. Our Mishnah says that this does not affect the Nazir. What affects the Nazir? Double the amount. Chatzi. Now, what's going on here? Why is our Mishnah saying like the third Shita? What's the problem? The problem is that the first two Shitas don't mention the word Pesach and Nazir. Yovei Ashlishi v'Yachriya b'neihem is when the first shita talks about Nazir, it has to be a reva. The second one says it has to be 2 kav. Comes the third shita and says Nazir has to be a half a kav. Okay, there's a discussion about a Nazir, and I'm going to decide. There's zero discussion about a Nazir. It just said all of the Torah is like this, and all of the Torah is like that. Come the third shita and say, hey, by the way, there's a difference. A Nazir is different than everybody else. That's not achra. That's an hamtzah. They invented something new that wasn't mentioned anywhere. So why would our Mishnah go like the third shita? Omer Yosef Yehuda mepi Shmuel amru. Omer Yaakov bar Idi mepi Shmuel amru. They didn't make it up. They heard this from generation to generation. Mepi Chagai Zechariah Malachi. It happens to be that in Yevamos Daf Zayin, the Gemara says over there that Reb Doisa ben Hyrcanus, he actually saw Chagi Zechariah Malachi. So it's possible that the word Tanaim that were right there with Chagi, that they saw, they heard, it wasn't so far off. Upon him, they got it with a tradition. It's not like they're making, huh?
Some say Shmaya and Naftali.
Saw them?
Some say it was not Chagi and Naftali.
Okay. Whatever. They got a tradition somehow. Fine. If you live in Ramat Bet Shemesh, you know that a lot of the streets in Gimel and different places are named after Chagai, Nevi'im. Some places it's even Tanaim, Amoraim. And guess what the streets are named in Kiryat Sefer? After Achrayim. There are more lamdish over there. Maybe Shmuel Amru, Chagai Malachi. Aleilu hanazim galeach. Aleilu duration lemuti etzim kasayra. So the Mishnah says 9 things that the Nazir, or the list that the Nazir shaves his head. So why say Elu? Elu means and not something else. Lemuti etzim kasayra. It comes to exclude the barley. Here, I even brought one today. It's so small. These are, I don't know, there's 5 of them in this little bag. I don't know if you can see. I'll take one out. But etzim kisayra, if you have a bone, this is maybe for later sugya. If you have a bone, it's even hard to this big. It's nothing. It's like that size doesn't create an oil, but creates, if you touch it, creates tumah. What's the big kasha on what we just said? These words that we just said. The olim should be jumping up with the kasha. It says mefurish in the Mishnah. How are you telling me that it comes to exclude something that's in the Mishnah? Again, I feel like this is part of Nazir. But Taisa says, listen, there's something called Tani V'Hadam Mefarish. First, I tell you the Chiddush, and then I explain the Chiddush. You don't find so often in Shas. Maybe sometimes you do, but not very often. And Ve'elu the Seifa. What does the Elu in the Seifa come? Limute Even Hasachoiches Seifa. What? Oh. Yeah. Da'al Magoy V'al Masoy in, I explained about Peh, you become Tomei by touching a piece of barley, a bone the size of barley, but not if you create a tent over it. We're going to get to the Mishnah tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem. There's if like a stone comes off a mountain and you go underneath it, what the halach is, I was on a tiyul in Tveria, and the kohanim had to get off the bus because there's like an overhang of this. I don't know, you ever saw that, Rabbi Schoenberg? You have to get off the bus. They had to walk around. Oh, in Tveria you have to get off the buses. You see that? Very good. Limudei even as choiches. Fine. Again, that's mefurish in the Mishnah, even as choiches, but like Taisa said. V'chatzikav atzomois, turning to Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Sponsored by Tzlocha of our Yelib, Ben Aliza Simcha Sheino Masha, and Aliza Simcha Sheino Masha, Bad Bracha, Latzlocha for the Magid and the members of the HBA group and their families. Omen. Chatzikav atzomois in. If you have a full half a kav of atzomois, approximately a liter worth of bones, it's metama boil. Roiv atzomois, if you have the smaller amount, half of that, half a liter, is not metama boil, but it is metama if you touch it. Ask the Gemara Chidami. What's the case? If it has even a piece of small, tiny barley this big within it, and you touched it, this is all you need to touch and become tamei. Oil not, but we're not talking about oil. So why in the world do you need something this large when it could be this big? You can't even see it. Yeah. There's 4 of these in the bottom of the bag. Why do you need this? Says the Gemara. There's a couple that went on a weekend retreat for Shalom Bayis. So the speaker there says, does anybody know what your wife's favorite flower is? So one of the guys, he leans over to his wife. He goes, that's easy. All-purpose flour, yeah? So, says the Gemara, Elo, the akmachak muche. We're talking about bones that turned out like this. This, says the Gemara, there's no etzem kesayra here. You don't have a piece of barley here. It has to be the size of a barley. You don't even have barley. What do you have? You have, they ground it up real good. I'm not going to show you the video game. People are going to throw up. Never. My wife is probably making chal right now, and she's like, okay, so this you need, this amount. This you need. Where's your flour? This you need a reva kav, okay? Because it's in flour consistency. Alever min ameis. We learned if you have a limb from even a live person, if it has enough meat, flesh to regenerate. By the way, Bar Koichva, he used to have his soldiers bite their thumbs off. Bite it off with the teeth, the shinov. And then the Chacham said, don't do it. You're making them balimumim. But that you have a situation where you have a naver with flesh that can regenerate.
The new test, to break the gallop past the tree and uproot it while you're galloping.
Yeah.
That was the new test to get it to go.
Yeah. To uproot a tree while you're galloping. I like that one better. It says if it has enough flesh, then it creates an oil. Anybody that walks into the room, you become tamei. What about if it doesn't have enough flesh, but you touch it? That we have machlokes. It's nothing. It doesn't have enough flesh. It's a thumb that has very, very little flesh. Not metame, even if you touch it. No, you touch it, you have to shave. Because I give him daik in the Mishnah it's only in this way. Sheyesh aleim kezayis basar in, aval ein aleim kezayis, aval ein aleim loy. And even more, if you want to say it lumdish and with the baktzener, if it's true that a thumb without flesh on it is metam if you touch it, it should be in our Mishnah right next to etzem kesayra. Etzem kesayra is a tiny little bone that if you touch it, there's no oil, but if you touch it, you become tamei. Right next to it, next case, I have a bone that's less than the sayra. It has flesh on it and has everything, but not enough flesh to regenerate. Also, if you touch it, you're metama. How come it's not in there? Raya says, Rabbi Yochanan, it's a diuk, and could I use a diuk to tell me halacha? Says Rabbi Yochanan, yeah. Rabbi Shimon says, no, you touch a limb that doesn't have enough flesh, the Nazir has to shave. Why? Daf nun dalid. If you just look over in the next Mishnah, which is our sefer, it's the continuation of our Mishnah, it should be in that Mishnah. It says all the things that don't cause, and how come it's not in there? Rabbi Yochanan, so in other words, it does cause tumah. Otherwise, that's me. Great. I have a button now that can turn off from here. Gewaldig. Anything I could learn from the Reisha, from a diuk, I'm not going to say it in the Mishnah on Daf Nun Daled. I asked the Gemara two questions. There's two things in the Sefer in the next Mishnah that I could be medayik from the Reisha. One of them is v'chatzi kav atzamis. It says in our Mishnah, the first Mishnah, it says a half a kav makes tumah. And you could infer from that the mashma chatzi kav atzamis in, roiv atzamis loy. If it's half the shear, not. So you're inferring it. So how come this case is brought in the second Mishnah? Says Gemara, I would think that if you have this form, don't forget, Rabbi, we already established. We're talking about flour in a half a liter container, or that amount, half a liter, a reva. I would think if you touch it, you're not tamei. So pay attention. It's very, very important to pay attention. And the chiddush is that you are tamei. Again, the chiddush is yes. In a second, we're going to see the exact opposite. The chiddush is no. You hear what I'm saying? I would think that a reva kav is not metamei. Komash milon, yes. Thumbs up. It is metamei. Only with the oil, you're not megalech. But touching, even a reva kav, you're megalech. Ask the Gemara, chatzi loik dam. The shamas mino chatzi loik dam in. A nazir needs a full half a lug, but a quarter of a lug, which is a revius, what we call today revius. Revius dam loy. V'katani b'sefer revius dam. So how come it's brought down in the Mishnah? You said anything that I can infer is not in the Mishnah. I can infer it, and it's in the Mishnah. Rabbi Kiva says that revius, even b'maga, but lafukim the Rabbi Kiva who says a different shear. And Memela to tell us that it's not like Rabbi Kiva that a quarter of a kav, a quarter of a lug, or a revius, is not metama. So over here we're not. Before is yes. And let's just stop here because the Rosh Yeshiva is here. Have a wonderful day. Motsei Shabbos, 8:45.